Welcome, everyone, and it's really the summer. It's the summer doldrums, I think. So everybody needs a little break from the heat, and just with perfect timing, we have our first-time visitor, Corrina Ferguson. Welcome, Corrina. It is perfect timing to have you here in the dog days of summer. So welcome to your very first visit on the party line.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so you're a Florida girl like me, although I'm not currently sweltering. I feel your pain. I definitely feel your pain. And after having spent, I don't know, 50 summers in Orlando. So, and it's funny because people who, when I tell them I live in Orlando, and knitters will say, well, what do you knit? Because I think most people think that knitting is, you think big chunky sweaters and cowls and scarves and hats and gloves and mittens, and people think that in Florida that we only knit dishcloths or something because because I mean it's hot. I'm not telling you anything you don't know since you live in Jacksonville, but so when I got the preview message from your publisher for this book, I thought, oh, I mean, there's half the country spends their summer hot, but even in the more northern climes, there's, if you knit, especially, you want to be able to wear something handcrafted even in the summer months, which it may not be 110, but it's certainly not 45 degrees outside. So, obviously you live in the heat belt there. So, what was the idea behind this book? How did it come about?
Well, when originally I was proposing my first book, what you do is you talk with editors. They have acquisitions editors, and you say, I'd like to do a book about this. And sometimes they say, oh, no, that's a horrible idea. And they say, oh, that's interesting. Let's flesh this out. And it was originally in my head titled Southern Seasons. And so I wanted to come up with knitted garments that worked for everywhere, but specifically for climate as it is in Florida. I've actually only been here for about 12 years. I grew up in Ohio and didn't know how to knit. And then I live here, and the summers are hot. I mean, we've definitely already had quite a few 100-degree days. But then the winters, it gets cold, but it's not cold like it is up north. And so I wanted, tank tops and then cardigans that you could wear as a winter coat was kind of the range of things that I wanted to do for the book.
Yeah, and that's the thing in Florida is if you knit those big chunky Aran sweaters, in wool and heavyweight yarns, you might wear it once a year. I mean, it's going to sit in your closet for the rest of the year. You have to like keep your fingers crossed for that freak snap where it goes down to freezing, because in Florida where I live in Orlando, what's really crazy is it drops down to 65 degrees and the fur coats come out. I mean,
Yes.
right? Like you have that like one chance to wear it. Although I don't wear fur, I don't judge. But but I think for people in the rest of the country as well, I mean, most people have warmer summers and colder winters, and there are days that fall in between. So I was really excited to see this book because I do like lighter weight sweaters. I also think they tend to be more flattering on what I call fluffy people.
Yes.
So if you're not a size 2, wearing one of those big chunky sweaters is probably not going to be the most flattering look on you, because you get a better drape and a closer fit to the body with a lighter knit. So
yeah, I don't need any extra fluff. So
I'm really against adding fluff. So let's take a preview, like a guided tour. I love guided tours of books. So, and this, do you know, where was this book shot? The photography done?
that is funny because it was actually shot in Colorado. And when I sent the stuff to the publisher, I had a mood board, and what I really wanted for the book was kind of an old Savannah feel, the kind of debutante a little bit, like kind of thing. And I don't know how they found it, but they've got this location where it's all green and lush and, columned buildings and everything. And when I got the pictures back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they do this in Colorado? I was really, really pleased with that.
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's probably a good thing they didn't shoot it in the dead of winter, though.
Oh
But
no, they didn't. So
yeah, I mean, because I would never have guessed that this was not shot in the South. So
yeah, I was really happy about that because I didn't want it to look like, we were faking it, and it really doesn't.
yeah,
So,
beautiful. So let's talk about some of the projects in the book. And I think this, I love, first of all, I just love cables. But what I really like about this is this is 3-season wear for most of the country.
right.
Yeah, and Kate M says she thinks this is her favorite in the book, which Kate, is kind of why it's on my little mini list. That's the nice thing is when I prepare these, it's like, oh, I like this. Oh, I like this. I'll put it in the keynote presentation. But this is really beautiful. And what it's just like little special details, like how wide the ribbing comes over the shoulder, where it's wider than it is on the button front panel. But tell us about this design. This is really beautiful. Yeah, Shannon says it's classic, relaxed. It's beautiful. It was a really
Um, this one of the things that we did in the book, because it was geared towards warmer climates, the heaviest weight yarn is a DK. So this is actually a DK weight yarn, and it's Sincere Sheep Luminous, which is a silk wool blend, but it's just butter in your hands, and it cables. Obviously, you can see just wonderfully. But really, what I wanted something that you could wear kind of as a coat, and it. Even like in some of the warmer months, a lot of times the air conditioning is so cold here. Some people think your air conditioning should be like at 60, 65 degrees. And so it's nice to have something like that to be able to throw on at those times. So,
And that's what Susan was saying with the air conditioning. You can wear it all 4 seasons. And I think that's especially true in southern climates where they tend to over air condition everything. Up north, they overheat everything in the winter. But down in the south, it's if you go in any public building, the odds are it is set somewhere in the 60s to make up for the fact the doors are opening and there are people in there. So at work, you definitely have to have something. You can't wear a tank top or something sleeveless. You're going to freeze to death. So yeah, this is really lovely. Yeah, Susan says she can't go into the supermarket in the summer without a jacket on. Yeah,
no,
I mean
I'm the
that's
same
what
way.
happens.
I take shawls to church. The movie theater, of course, is always freezing, but in Florida, it seems like it's worse. Like I'm thinking about tomorrow. Okay, I need a cardigan because we're going to the movies tomorrow. So, yeah, it's definitely air conditioning will kill you down here. So.
Yeah. Well, you can just whip a cardigan up today, right after the event. You've got plenty of time.
Actually, I'm a really, really slow knitter. It's kind of pathetic. I was sitting with someone at a trade show and I was working on a project, and she looks at me and she goes, I don't understand how you get anything done. She goes, I've never seen anybody knit that slow. And I'm like, well, it's not that bad, because you're talking to people and stuff. But I am not a fast knitter. So yeah, it takes me a while to get stuff done. So.
All right. Well, we'll give you a couple of days to finish that sweater then. And this I loved because when I first saw this piece, I thought, oh, wait, is that one piece? No, I see collarbone, which
Right.
kind of gives you that multi-use where you can, when you need a little something warmer, you have something around your neck, but you can take it off. And the edge trimming on this and on the sleeves is just gorgeous. And Kate says, yeah, this color is great for warm weather because you actually feel like sherbet, like it feels like a nice cool color. This is beautiful. Tell us how this came about.
This is actually Anzola yarn, and I think the color is called Champagne, and it's just a really pretty, flatters everybody kind of color. But you can't really see it in the pictures there, but the cuffs of this and the cowl are actually worked in a different yarn than the body of the sweater. The body is just a DK MCN, and then the cuffs and the cowl are Nebula, which has a little bit of a sparkle in it, but not a scratchy sparkle. It's like a really soft sparkle, so it's good around your neck. So it kind of gives you that option to dress it up a little, or take it down a notch. I kind of was envisioned for the winter season as kind of a cocktail thing, because if you had on like a fancy black skirt, then you can be kind of dressed up with the sparkle. But I'm a little wary, because I'm not 5 years old, of overdoing the sparkle. So, you don't want to like go crazy with the sparkly stuff. But
Yes, but I don't think there's anybody in the room who would tell you that sparkle's not a good thing. We all like a little sparkle, and Shannon says she loves the detail on the sleeves, which I did too. That I was really drawn to that, and it really just dresses up the sweater and makes it something special. And definitely, it wouldn't look like something homemade. It's not, and it's to me,
no,
I don't knit anything that I could go to Target and buy for $15. That's kind of my rule. And
right.
right, so if I just need a V-neck pullover, I will buy a V-neck pullover. I always want something special in anything that I take time to knit. And just the detail on the sleeve on this would be enough to make me knit this. So it is a really, really beautiful. And the styling they did in the book, they did such a nice job on the styling in this. So
Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
yeah.
Really, really happy with it, because you don't get to go, so you kind of like have to wait, and then they send you the pictures, and you hope that you're happy. And I really was, so that was really nice.
Yeah. Well, they do. Interweave does a great job, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, they've
I'm.
got it. They've got it down pat. They do a beautiful job on their books.
Hmm.
So this, what I love about this hoodie is how nicely it drapes and how nicely it fits. It doesn't have that boxy shape that you frequently see in hoodies, and also the how the hood is shaped. It just really frames her face nicely. Tell us about this sweater.
This is the Lachlan cardigan, and this is in Shalimar Homage DK. It's another DK. Most of the heavier sweaters, like the winter things, are in the DK weights, because that's the heaviest that's in the book. But the nice thing about that chevron pattern is it really, it's easy to work, it's easy to memorize, but it behaves like a ribbing. So there's no waist shaping and stuff on this, but it hugs you and contours into you just like a rib sweater would, without like, you don't get super bored, because you're not only doing ribbing, you kind of get to mix it up a little bit. And then it's got the set-in zipper, which I really love, because I love the idea of just like a dressed up hoodie, because I don't want to wear a sweatshirt around, like when I need something to throw on. So I kind of like the idea of that, dressing it up a little bit and making it fancier. And then the yarn's just delicious, so that makes it feel more special. So.
Yeah, life's too short to knit with yarns that don't feel good in your hands, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm very, very picky about yarn. But the bad thing is I just keep finding more and more people who are making yarns that I love. And I'm like, okay, you got to stop, because I have too much stuff to do right now. So,
Yeah, Shannon says she loves the chevron. It's one of her favorite.
yeah, it's nice. Like I said, it's like a ribbing, so it kind of hugs you, and but looks polished. So,
Yeah, and it doesn't look grippy. It's like it just shapes itself nicely. It's really, really pretty. So, and this I think is like the quintessential afternoon tea summer sweater, and it's so perfectly styled and photographed in this, because it's the stitch pattern in this is really, really special. Tell us about this.
this is actually a stitch pattern that I have been in love with forever. One of the first things that I invested in when I started designing was the Barbara Walker Treasuries. And if you're not familiar, she has four, well, I think there's actually five, I don't have the fifth one, but there's four main treasuries that have stitch patterns in them. And this stitch pattern, it's a little kind of a crazy kind of a cable rib thing. And I've had it on my make something out of this list forever. And so when I got the commission for the book, and I knew I wanted to make sure it was in there, and I got, this is the Soulmate yarn from Lorna's Laces, which is not Soulmate, I'm sorry, Sportmate, which is a sport weight that's got like cooling properties in the fabric. So it's super cool to wear. And then it just cabled so pretty. Sometimes when you have fabrics that are not just wool, or have other things added to them, they don't cable nicely, but this cabled beautifully. So I was really happy that that would come together, and then the shaping and stuff. That's one that, like, if I had the time to knit for myself, I would make one of those for myself. So
Yeah, and Kate says this is really beautiful and wants to know, is that a collar in the back or is it a
It's
front?
kind of not quite a polo collar because it sits back a little further. Um, Not long enough to be a sailor collar though. I don't. It's basically like a polo collar that's sitting a little further back on her neck. It's only about maybe 3 or 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches long. So, but no, not a hood.
Yeah, and it's nice because then her collarbones are still exposed, which is always nice too. And Kate says this yarn sounds amazing, and Shannon says,
It's really nice. I'm making something else in the fingering version of the yarn, and I really, really like it. So,
yeah, I don't think Lorna's Laces makes anything I don't love.
oh, and the Mrs. Crosby stuff is so fabulous that they've come out with. I don't have any of that in the book, but I have big plans for lots of that stuff. So it's really nice.
Yeah, and Shannon says this is very feminine. She loves it, which I agree. It's like it's just a perfect. It's girly without being frilly, which is a fine line.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the Lorna is because it's such an established company, they have every color. There's not anyone who could say they couldn't find a color that they love and that will flatter them to work the sweater up in, which is nice.
Yeah, they have a ton of colors to choose from. All
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is pretty. I was really fascinated by the stitch pattern on this and the color combination, which is very modern for something that's really kind of a soft, traditional, feminine look. So tell us about this design.
This shawl is a slip stitch pattern, and basically what it is it's knitted with Kashi Light, which is an MCN blend, but it's a little thinner, so it's really great yardage. So this is actually a huge shawl, really nice to wrap yourself up in. And I'm a fluffy girl, big girl, but I wore this at the trade show and stuff because I can wrap it all the way around my shoulders and everything. You can see it's kind of doubled along around the little girl. Um, but it's just a slip stitch pattern, so you only have to work one color at a time, and then the lace edging is added afterwards. You just pick up stitches around the side and you work the lace edging and bind it off. So, but it's asymmetrical, so it's got a good shape to it, so it gives it a little more interest. But the yarn is really nice to work with, and I really liked kind of the candy colors. I felt that felt fit in pretty well with the palette that I put together for the book. That was fun. It was really fun to get to pick the colors, to say, oh yes, this is what I want to do, as opposed to like when you work with magazines and they're like, this is what you will do. So that was fun.
Yeah, and Shannon says it looks like mosaic stitching, which it was like slip stitch patterns are.
It actually, if I'm thinking correctly, I think this is a pattern from a Barbara Walker as well.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
I
got
love her mosaic knitting stitch book.
Yeah, she's got a lot of those in some of her other books as well, because the Mosaic one is the one that I don't own. But it comes together nicely, and I don't mind Fair Isle, but it's not my favorite, and so I'm always wanting the pretty effects for the less work.
Yeah, there
So,
you go. So, yeah, it's really pretty. So, and I just was so drawn to how the cables work on this raglan sweater. I can't wear anything up next to my neck because I'm claustrophobic, but if I could, I would knit this sweater. This is gorgeous. Tell us about this.
you actually could make the neckline a little lower. And if you wanted to do something like that, you just ask me on Ravelry or something, and we can figure it out. But basically, it's a top-down raglan. It's in a wool silk blend. It's a sport weight. It's Stitch Sprouts Yellowstone, and I love the little cable pattern, and it just does really nicely. And then actually, you can't really tell from the picture so much, but the rest of the body is actually in reverse stockinette. So you have the little tiny cables up along the top on the reverse stockinette background, and it's just reverse stockinette the rest of the way down, which is a nice change up, because you have so many things that are just plain stockinette. But the fabric on this is really, really soft to the skin. I mean, it's next to the skin soft. So I'm really picky. And in Florida, you don't always have, or even anywhere that it's warm, you don't always wearing like a long sleeve under something or anything under things. So it's nice to have things that when they're touching your skin, you don't have any itchy factor or any of that. So
Yes, you don't want to feel like you can't wait to get it off because it's not fun. So, yeah, and oh, this one's getting lots of love. Susan says she loves it because she she likes the higher neckline, which I think is really beautiful. I just can't. I unfortunately can't wear it. But Candy loves it. Kate says this is great dressed up or casual, which I agree. I mean, you wear this with jeans like this, or you
Hmm.
put a pair of black trousers or a white pleated skirt under. I mean, it could. I mean, this is a definite dress it up, dress it down kind of thing. It's really pretty. Shannon says it's amazing. Roxy loves top down because she can get the right length, which is nice because you can
Yeah,
make it longer, which I love.
yeah, it
I
makes it a
like
lot
my
easier.
sweaters a little longer because I am not built like this model. And yeah, so and everybody's loving that this sweater and the fact that there's such a pretty top down one. And I think doing all that reverse stockinette is actually really shows off those beautiful cables at the top. And any sweater that draws attention, to your face is going to be more flattering on your body if you tend to be a little more fluffy.
Well, and I will admit, I turned that inside out, and I did the reverse stockinette inside out. When I got to the point where the cable stopped, I just turned it out and then I knit, 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 knit,
Yeah.
just because,
You're
I'm
working it
so,
around. Why wouldn't you
yeah,
instead of purl?
faster at knitting than purling. So I just did it that way. And then when I got to the ribbing, I just worked it kind of reverse and stuff like that. So it's an easy work. It's a fast work. It comes together really quickly.
Yeah, and Candy's wondering how this would look on someone top heavy.
The one thing that you might want to do though, if you're very busty, is you might want to add in some bust darts, or tailor it a little more with more decreases in the waist. This has some subtle waist shaping, not a ton, but you definitely, it would be easy doing the top down to go ahead and adjust it to your bust, and then you would just want to bring it in, as much as you feel comfortable with to make sure that but it's all reverse stockinette, so it's not like you have any patterns to contend with when doing that extra shaping, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and if you want to add some short row shaping to give yourself a little more
Hmm.
room on the top. That's the great thing about top down is that you try it on as you go, so you know it's going to fit when you get to the bottom, which is
Hmm.
which is which is really great, especially if you're investing time and money in some really nice yarn.
Yeah.
This is so pretty. I actually thought this was two sweaters when I first looked at it because it definitely has like a built-in layered look to it, and the color is just it just kind of like makes you feel 10 degrees cooler just looking at it.
Yes.
Oh, Candy says she has to have this, which I think Candy's going to knit it for me and send it on, right? So yeah, so tell us about this beautiful tank. It's really gorgeous.
This was one of those things that when they sent the pictures back, I was like, oh, they did it like I wanted it, because in my mind's eye, when I put this together, it had to have like a white bottom with it. It had to have white pants or a white skirt or something. So I was like super happy when I saw this back. And then you see the columns in the background. Dorothelia, it's actually a bottom-up tank, and it's just simple lace at the bottom. And it's in the Fiber Company's Meadow yarn, which is a lace weight. It's a good one to put an under thing underneath, a layer to keep you, from being super sheer, because it is a lace weight, and it's blocked out so that it's a nice thin fabric. But the nice thing about that is I had some people online saying that they felt it was a little short, but it's really easy just to extend that stockinette section so that you have a little more length if you're longer waisted. So,
Yeah, because this would be pretty tunic length as well. Really.
oh, and Shannon was asking how I pick the yarns.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not. I keep missing that there's questions on
Oh
the
no,
side,
no.
and I'm
I
sorry.
make sure you get them all. Don't worry about that. No.
Okay. Well, and actually, the way that I picked a lot of the yarns is I go to the National Needle Arts Association show. It's TNNA. And a lot of the yarn companies that I work with, I've gotten to know through there, even the smaller companies. And the editor actually took me around and introduced me to some of the companies that I didn't know, because one of the things that we do with a book like through Interweave is we want to make sure that the yarns are pretty widely distributed. We don't want something that, it's hard to get it, that there's only an update once a year or whatever like that. So we want to make sure that the yarns are distributed wholesale, that they're available from different sources. So that's one of the big things that we do. And then I had put together a mood board with a palette for this project, for the whole book. And I kind of started from there and had color cards. Like the yarn companies will give you color cards with little samples of the yarn, and started just putting things together and seeing how they looked because I wanted it to have a overall cohesive feel. You know, you didn't want something that was like screaming lime green in the middle of it all, which I love screaming lime green. I just did a project in screaming lime green, but you know, for this palette, we wanted everything to kind of fit together, which makes it easier to photograph and stuff as well. So
Yeah, this is so pretty. It's just so summery. This I love. And when I first saw this, I thought, especially from back when I actually went to an office every day to go to work, like this would be the piece that I would leave on the back of my chair and always have available because it's cold in the office and
mhm.
it's still really polished, as opposed to like the old ratty sweater that you rescued, basically from the dustbin. So this is so beautiful, and the trim on this is so nice. So yeah, and Savannah Gal says this is super cute. She needs this in her office right now.
And this is a nice too. This is a good layering piece because it's the Dream in Color Baby, which is it's their lace weight, but their lace weight is a little heavier than other people's lace weight. Um, but they have a great color palette, you know, all kinds of colors to choose from. And this color is actually kind of a denim-y color, so it's nice because it kind of goes with everything. But yeah, the lace trim on that I love. And then the little sleeve cuffs are worked sideways, so then you pick up stitches from that real easily just to do the rest of the sleeve.
Yeah, just really, really beautiful. And I love their yarns too. I did a sweater for my daughter-in-law two years ago. 2 years ago, in their with the cashmere one. It was gorgeous.
They have, I've loved their yarns. That's one of the yarns that I've been using since I began knitting, and I just really, and this is actually, the next one you're going to is actually Dream in Color as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and actually, Kate says she likes the trim on those sleeves, which I agree. This is, it's so funny because I usually when I see lace, like big, like lace shawls, they're done, you get that cobwebby kind of lace. This is, I like that it's a heavier texture, but I picked such an unusual color for this. It just looks completely modern because it's not, it's definitely not grandma's lace shawl. I mean, or great grandma's lace shawl. This is really beautiful. Tell us about this. Yeah,
This is
she loves the
this is
color too.
Yeah, this is Junius, and it's Dream in Color Posh Sport. So it's a sport weight shawl, and it's huge. I am 5'10", and even when I'm wearing this up over my shoulders, this hangs down low on my back, which is really nice. But if you see on the model the way that she's wearing it, there's a little line that's coming, and I'm pointing at my screen like you can see me. There's a little line of shaping that you can see that kind of comes down across from her waist down to pointing towards her leg. That's actually the shoulder shaping. So when you pull that up over your shoulders, it sits on your shoulders really nicely. I've done a couple of other shawls in this construction, and it's one of those things that it's kind of flattering on everybody, and the way that the shoulders sit, you don't have to wear any kind of shawl pin. It kind of hangs straight down your fronts, and you can make it as big as you want. And the Posh Sport was really nice to work with.
Right.
So
Yeah, Roxy says she loves the shawl shaping since she's little. She gets tied up in shawls sometimes, and probably not on purpose. So that's what I'm guessing. But the shawls that kind of hug your shoulders as opposed to the ones that are just flat, and then you have to like kind of they get all jumbled up around your neck as you're trying to keep them on. And yeah, Roxy said she wasn't getting tied up on purpose. Okay, just checking.
yeah,
Well, it's
I'm a
personal.
big loser of shawl pins too. I go to the shows and I buy these beautiful handcrafted shawl pins, and they're like hair ties. They just disappear, and I don't know where they all go. So,
Yeah. Well, somebody finds them, and hopefully they understand that they should hang on to them and use them nicely. This
or
is
the dog toys.
or the dog toys. This is so pretty. I like how the design comes out of the ribbing. It's really I know, and this color. This is one of my favorite shades. So I was instantly drawn to this. I like how wide it is across the shoulders. And so tell us about this sweater.
This is Darl, and it is an Acadia. Oh gosh, the name Acadia is the name of the yarn. I was trying to think Acadia is it's the fiber company Acadia, and it's a sport or DK weight, but the nice thing about this is it's just crazy, crazy soft. I really liked working with this, and they have a lot of nice subdued colors. This one they actually call Wild Onion, which it doesn't look like wild onions to me, but I don't know, maybe there's purpley onion somewhere. But the ribbing into the pattern is one of those things that it drives me crazy. I have a thing where I can't have the ribbing come and then like have like an abrupt shift to do the patterning. So I will chart and rechart until the ribbing flows into the pattern, just so, because it's one of my, and I will spend too much time on it when probably other people don't care. But I really want it to be that way. That's one of the things when I design stuff that I can't stand. So it drives me a little crazy. So I'm really happy the way that this turned out. And I'm happy that you noticed it. It makes me happy that somebody else noticed that I do crazy things like that.
Well, it's those little details that make such a difference. And we all have our little thing, about sweaters, those things that like we could never make one if it did this, it's just
exactly
right.
Exactly.
So, and yours just happens to be a nice flow to the ribbing, which thank you. We appreciate. That's a good thing. So, so Terry says this is really sweet, which I agree. And Savannah Gal loves cardigans. So this might be on your list. And Candy says these events are costing her a fortune. I'm sorry, Candy, and I don't do it on purpose. So, Shannon wants to know: do you knit all your samples, or do you use contract knitters?
For this book, in general, I do most of my knitting. I'm very slow, but I do most of my knitting myself. For this book, about half of the projects are sample knitters. I'm lucky to know some people who knit crazy proficiently and fast as the wind that I was able to hire to do this. I was on a really short deadline for this book because we wanted it had to come out in the spring, obviously. This is not a winter release. And so it was the option whether it would come out this spring or next spring. And I was impatient, and I had never done a book, and I overestimated how it would go, and so I ended up having to farm out about half of the projects to sample knitters and hiring them to do that. But I had great sample knitters. They were way faster than I am, and people that I've worked with before, a lot of them, so they were like, you said this, but I know you don't mean this. So, and they blew up my phone, so they all had my phone number and would text me all the time until we got everything just right. And I'm totally grateful for them. All their names are in the beginning of the book, and I'm not going to list them off because I'll forget somebody and I'll feel awful. But totally would not have been able to do this without the sample knitters. And it was really great to have people that I could rely on for that.
Yeah, and it's nice to have an extra pair of eyes while things are being knit too, which is a good thing.
It really does help.
Yeah. So Savannah Gal says there's so many garments that she loves. She needs a sample knitter.
I have actually considered that because I'm a plus size girl, and when I go to the shows, I like to wear things that are mine, but I end up always wearing shawls. But then I have so many other things on my plate that I don't have time to knit myself a sweater, and I'm like, you know what? I could get the yarn for the sweater and hire a sample knitter to knit the sweater for me. They would do it way faster than I would, and then I'd have something that I could wear, to show off my wares more at the shows. But then I think I might get carried away and then be very broke. So.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, when you're knitting samples for a book, you're knitting small sizes. So unless you actually wear a small size, then you end up with trunks full of sweaters that you can't wear. So
yeah, and the thing is I'm a tall girl too. So even if I was as skinny as a rail, I wouldn't be able to wear these sample sizes. I've never been. Even at my thinnest, my high school days, I was never this tiny. And the girls are so pretty. And you see the pictures, and they look tiny, but they don't look, like ridiculously tiny. But then they are so small. The girls that do the modeling, they're beautiful, and I love it. But when I do models at home, I hire my son's teenage girlfriends a lot because, they're still those little tiny slips of things that can fit in all these sample sizes. So it saves you knitting time.
It does, because when you're knitting extra smalls, it's much faster. Savannah Gal says she thinks these would fit her. Hint, 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 hint. Yeah, nice try, Savannah Gal. So this boat neck with the stitch patterning on it is so graceful. that it was really, yeah, Roxy says this is perfection, which I agree. This is so pretty. Tell us about this design. It's so nice.
This is Bayard, and it is top-down yoke construction. So the lace pattern on there is one of the Japanese lace patterns, and all the increases are worked into the lace. So there's no obvious lines like on a raglan because it's the yoke construction. And the yarn is Sweet Georgia's superwash DK, and basically Sweet Georgia could hand me any of her yarns and I would say, yes, thank you, I will make you things, because Felicia's yarns are so beautiful. I actually have a project in the works for her coming up, and I love working with her stuff. Her colors are so rich. And this was one of those things where in Florida you don't get autumn. um, Most of the trees, we have a lot of pine trees and palm trees, and there's not like foliage. I was so excited to get to go to Rhinebeck this past year because I actually got to see autumn leaves. So I wanted to include some projects in the books that had that kind of autumnal kind of feel to them, and this was one of those. So this is one of the fall projects. And then the ribbing on it's really simple, but it's really flattering, easy to do the shaping, and you can change the shaping up, if you need more or less of a waist and stuff. But I find that those kind of lines are kind of flattering on all kinds of body types.
Yeah. And I love the 3/4 length sleeve. I just love that right below the elbow sleeve. I think for most women, unless they're really, really super fit, the upper arm is and the elbow, and nobody's elbows are really attractive. I mean, are just not the part of your arm, but the wrist is. And I love the length of the sleeve. And yeah, this yarn is getting love. The color's getting love. The sweater's getting love. I think that means it's a home run. It's really, really pretty. And
I think this
they
is my
picked a model
favorite.
whose hair color just matches your sweater.
Yeah, this I think is my favorite. That one was my favorite from the whole book, was the Bayard one. So.
Yeah, it's you're not supposed to have favorites because it's like your children, right? But everybody does. This one's really, really special. So this is just a lovely wear with everything piece. I think this is one of those sweaters that you really don't put in the back of the closet because you're going to reach for it over and over and over again. It's just going to become a staple. This is so pretty. Tell us about this sweater.
This is, and off the top of my head now, the name just fell out of my head, but it's Mono Serena is the yarn, and the Serena yarn is really wonderful. It's kind of a sport fingering kind of weight yarn, and it just makes the most beautiful fabric. So there's tons of stockinette in this sweater, but you've got the nice applied lace edgings, but the stockinette is just so pretty. And then the Monos yarns have that nice kind of subdued color palette, so you can have a sweater like this that you can put on again and again, and it doesn't look like you're wearing the same thing over and over again, because it kind of is goes with everything kind of a color. I love the denim colors. Obviously, I'm partial to.
Yeah.
You can totally tell what kind of colors I like by the book a lot. So
Yeah, and just the little kind of that lace faggoting at the wrist before that gets to the ruffle is
mhm.
just such a lovely touch. Really, really pretty.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah, and Savannah Gal says she liked that feminine touch at the cuffs. And so that's a small sampling of the projects in the book. So some lucky person in the room today is going to win their very own copy, and then some lucky person on Facebook later this week will win theirs as well. Everybody else is kind of on their own for like buying one. So I know people are going to want to keep track of you because they want to see where you're going, what you're doing, what crazy project you're working on now. And this is where you can follow Corrina. Oh, yeah. And actually, Patricia said that last sweater was her favorite. She found it classy and feminine, which
Thanks.
perfectly describes it. So you can go to Picnic Knits because life is a picnic and knitting should be too. So picnicknits.com to follow Corinna's journey. So, and then if you're on Ravelry, you can also find her designer page there and see what you've been missing from. And also, I think there are the projects that I didn't show you are on here.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that you can see what else is in the book. So I think I did a pretty good job, though. Now, as I'm looking at these, yeah,
You
I,
did. You did.
I would do it. I would do it exactly the same again. So, yeah, so you can. So there you have it. You can see the rest of the projects in the book, and then you can follow Picnic Knits on Instagram. And you know what I love is so many designers are spending time on Instagram, and you get a chance to see kind of all the things that they love, and you feel like you're kind of part of their
I look
part
like
of
I
their
love
life.
food.
Yeah, well, it's I think my knitting books all have recipes in them, so I think there's
I love that.
I think there's something like when you knit for other people, it is a gift of your time, and there's love, and you're like while you're knitting, unless you hate the yarn and you're cursing the whole time. But
Right.
in that case, you shouldn't probably be doing it. But I think it's the same thing, is that when you cook, you're also creating, and that it's a way of showing people love. So I think they go together. I think cooking and knitting go together. Although knitting and eating is tough because it's hard to do it at the same time because you want to keep your yarn clean.
Absolutely.
So unless you have somebody nearby who's willing to feed you while you knit, you pretty much can only do one at a time. But there you go. So and then you can also follow Picnic Knits on Twitter, so you can see what else is happening. And then I know you want this book, and if you don't win it today, then or on Facebook later this week, you of course call your local yarn store first to see if they have it, because we want to support them. But if not, you can head over, of course, to the Planet Pearl and click on books, and that'll take you to this page. And then you can click on Warm Days and Cool Knits. And there's a little link here that will take you to Amazon, and we get a little commission for that, which helps keep us bringing events like this to you. So if you don't win today, tomorrow you're going to head over to facebook.com/Planet Pearl, and you'll see that we're going to be giving away a book. So you don't want to miss that if you don't win today, or if you're coming back and watching this on YouTube and we're 3 or 4 days from the event, then you should head right over, because you still have a chance to win a book. So yay. So that was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming to visit us, Corrina. What are you working on now? Is it a big secret, or can we know?
I'm actually proposing my second book, which that part is a secret. I'm not allowed to tell anybody about that stuff yet. I'm in the swatching stage. So I'm drawing pictures and bad pictures. I'm horrible at the pictures. Drawing bad pictures and swatching up pretty pieces of fabric for the possible next book, which would also be with interweave. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then other than that, just self-publishing a lot. I have a lot of yarn companies and stuff that I've been working with and doing kits and stuff. So just cranking things out as much as I can, working around my crazy family schedule and stuff like that. So
Yeah. So you're basically sitting around eating bonbons and watching daytime dramas?
actually, my husband will that's the only time that he will get a little bit like I don't have a job, because I have a full-time business, with this. I mean, I'm doing this all the time. But then there will be like a week where all I'll do is catch up on trashy TV and knit, because, I have a project I have to get out. I'm actually working on something right now that's what I'm going to be doing, is watching TV and knitting. And he works from home as well, and he'll come down from the office and be like, how's it going? Because I'm literally sitting in front of the TV,
Yeah, knitting.
catching up on all the crazy stuff. So, but yeah, it's definitely all the time. And no, there's not a whole lot of bonbon time between taxiing my boys and, feeding the family. Teenage boys want to eat all the time. So,
I remember those days. So, Shannon had a question. She wanted to know how long it took you to put together all of the designs for the book.
from start to finish, it was probably 5 or 6 months.
Wow, that was fast.
It was a super short deadline. I think it was closer to 6 months, because we had some stragglers that we had to finish up. But like I said, about half of the projects were, it might have been a little more than half, were farmed out to sample knitters. So it was, just kind of going back and forth. And actually, if you look at my catalog of self-published stuff, you can see when I stopped publishing, because I'll have things that trickled in from other publications, but there are like no self-published patterns in like the first half of 2014. There's like nothing. So it's like it
You
was
were
all book all the
otherwise
time.
occupied.
Yes,
Otherwise,
I was very occupied, and it was crazy. I'm definitely going to be doing the next book on a normal deadline schedule, which is usually closer to about a year from start to finish. So
yeah. I just don't even want to think about the 6 month thing. It's making my heart pound.
it was stressful, but it got done, and I love it, and I'm so happy with it, and I'm very proud of it. So I can't complain.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and congratulations. So I hope you'll come back and see us when the next book is ready.
I would love to. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's been so nice meeting you, but don't go away because you're going to help me give away a book in just a minute.
Okay.
Everybody else, hang tight because you know what's coming up next.